So I created a different script. I created two different graphs and I modified the first one. Script. And now what I'm intending to do now is I had this idea of making different colors and edges for the different files in the Jinja2. And that's what I did on the first graph. But now I'm thinking about, I made it a different file for a script only to play around with the Jinja stuff. And what I'm thinking about doing is, first I'm gonna create different colors for the edges and the files to capture the connection between the Lexer stuff and the nodes and the compiler and the other files. Because I want to understand how everything is being created first. Then I think that if that's not enough, I'm probably gonna filter the initial stuff for only the files in Jinja that I want to analyze. The specific files. Then I'll go from there. Just gonna wait for this to stop moving. It's annoying because I have to keep the screen here. And the other graph is still halfway through. 400,000. But I'm not even sure if I'm gonna use that graph anymore because it's probably not that useful. I also added the other stuff, the code names. And what I did here was pretty much change the colors. I did this in this graph here. Put Pyvis on, I'll show the colors later. Oh yeah, parser also. Connection between node and parser. So I think I'm gonna go to the end here to see the files that are being activated when the template renders. Yeah, so this is the last one, the environments, then goes back to the function there in Pyvis. So it's rendering the environment that was already done before. It goes to runtime and then nodes. I also loaded the graph without any filters, but the extra information is just stuff about the frozen import lib from Python and some stuff from pandas and NumPy, so it's not that useful. So the last one is this filters one. Runtime notes. It just feels like I'm still missing something because I don't see how it makes sense for this to work. Because can I pass anything here? Doesn't make sense. Nodes and edges should be a list of dictionaries. What is the heading? It should be an empty string. The weird thing is that there is no network X as well on that script. I tested without the filters and I couldn't find any node for network X. This is the stuff that doesn't make sense. Because I'm not calling this anywhere. I'm just calling show buttons and net.show. This changes the configuration. It just doesn't make sense to me. Where is the part that this is writing this stuff on the template? It must be from Jinja2. It must be something embedded in Jinja2 already. These models here. My thinking before is that this was supposed to be part of some part of the network X library that is like it says there on the comment of one of the functions that has to do with Viz.js, but it doesn't call anywhere directly and it doesn't show up in the graph, so it means that only the Pyvis and Jinja are being activated. And if that's the case, there must be some part of the Jinja template that already has this physics stuff embedded into it somehow. And these options equals options. Yeah, it must be Jinja2 that is creating this stuff. The question is, how does it know what to create? How does it know to create a canvas, for example? Because there is no, just args and keywords. There's no specification of what arguments you can pass here and how they are affecting the template. So it has to be through this stuff. I have to understand how this works. Also need to understand. Hmm. I guess that's another way that I could do it. And specify a template here. I could create my own template and then put it here in case that the way that the route I'm going through doesn't work. So here self.options is going to be options layout. And this is gonna create all the other stuff. What I wasn't understanding is that maybe it's not on the layout. Maybe it's interaction. Yeah. This class here has only these arguments here in the init, but there are more options when you put this shit through. Because this is the one that I need to modify. Yeah, this description here presents the global options of the network. These objects consist of individual sub-objects that map to Vue.js modules of configure layout, interaction physics, edges. The JSON representation of this object is directly passed into the Vue.js framework. And I don't understand how is this possible. If it's not, maybe I'm missing the JSON part. Maybe if I put the JSON part in the graph as well. Because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, but this is for after you saw the graph. Then you can put the options if you want, which I didn't do so. So what I don't understand is how this creates the canvas and the stuff without explicitly saying there what are the options to put. Maybe I can put interaction here as well, just see. Because it's so weird that the only option that I can think about is that the Jinja2 templates have this class already, but it doesn't make much sense. Maybe I should research that as well. Jinja2 and VS, Vue.js. I think I'm gonna put this here. And this is just gonna talk about the normal, this stuff that, the methods and stuff like that. Maybe we should research Vue.js interaction. Here it is, Jinja. Hmm. So it's probably embedded in Jinja. It has to be. It's the only thing that makes sense. Vue.js is embedded in Jinja through templating. Maybe in those options, it's Jinja2 is configuring the script somehow or something like that. And through this script in the HTML, it calls the. Oh, I think I can. Yeah, I can just open here and see. So that's what's going on. Huh. So that's why it's not explicit there. It's just using this thing here, and that's how it knows uh the options there to put it. So this is why I'm not seeing. But I still think it should be possible to change. If I change stuff in the source code of Pyvis, it should be possible to change the configuration there. Well, let me see if it says anything about the show method. I think it's easier to just go through here. Height, width, nudges, heading. Yeah, it doesn't say anything specifically about Vue.js here. So I assume, but then how does it know? That's the thing that I don't understand. Like, how does Jinja knows to put the Vue.js stuff there? Doesn't make sense. If it's not specified here. It has to be on the Jinja stuff. There's no other explanation that makes sense. Because this content is just the file object. This stuff is from the network, which doesn't explicitly say us Vue.js anymore. The only option could be this setting, but I'm not specifying anything, so it's gonna be equal to an empty string. Let's close this, close this. And so these are all the nodes, then adding nodes and edges to the graph. Data equals nodes and edges. Var options. Here's the functionality of this stuff. Yeah, there's still nothing explicit saying here. So imagine that the node functionality comes from the script, the VJS stuff here. There was a trick to pretty print this, but I don't remember. Trying to modify the code here is probably not the best approach. The best approach is definitely figuring out how to modify the Pyvis code in a way that I can do what I want. I just need to figure out how to capture the nodes and to add the keyboard functionality. Once I'm able to figure that out, then I can do whatever I want later. Build scripts on top of it to do stuff that I want depending on what I what I want to do. I think this is the official site. Canvas. So let me go back to this. I need to understand the ginger stuff first. There's no way about it. This is probably the start. Oh yeah, so I was gonna do the edges and the files. So this is a loop here. Goes through here, then back again. Let's do the edges. Oh, I have to think about. Maybe it's better if I write stuff, because I need to think about what kind of connection I want to capture. I'm gonna copy this from here. I'm gonna put it here. Then I'm gonna put the conditions based on. Here I already did the Jinja2, so compress. Just click and press Alt, hold Alt to select multiple lines. There's no Pyvis. Oh, it's actually this that I want to change. But then it's gonna change everything. I guess I'll change one by one. So let me think first, then I think about what I wanna do. I guess I'll write the colors down. Actually, let's start. Maybe I'll copy. I hate that this shit is like this. I guess I'll write. Whatever. Light red. Green. Side. Maybe. Maybe. It's a waste of time, sure. Right, actually. So what I'm gonna do, depending on the file, I'm gonna create a different color and different edge. So if source equals I want the color one should be this. Why is it giving me this warning? Oh, it's indentation. So I have to think about if I want to create a different color for the edge based on the direction of the node. For example, from nodes.py. Maybe yeah, I have a better idea actually. I think I'm gonna put a bunch of variables here instead. Equals to this stuff. Nodes py equals to this. That way is much better. As I can just do it for the other ones. Oops. Oh no. I'm gonna go back just to make sure I'm getting this correctly. These warnings piss me off. Here it's already done. Visitor. Then my idea is pretty much I wonder if this is gonna give me a problem actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Because I'm not sure if I can do this. It's probably not possible. I just wanna organize this stuff so it's easier to think. I guess I'll put the names of the files here. Then I'll clean this stuff up. And then nodes by, environment by. Thing is, I'm gonna have to. I guess I'll leave it like this. Already put it there. I don't want to lose the colors, just so I don't have to research again. Good colors to put. Okay, now it should be good. So the only thing I need to change is the colors, and then the nodes are gonna be created here anyway. Now I have to think about whether or not I'm gonna make the same color for the, regardless of the direction of the connection, or a different color. I think I'll just test it out with the same color, just to make it easier. Well, actually, I'm just gonna use the source for the edges and see what happens. Color edge is gonna be this one, and color one is gonna be this one. Put here light red. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do it like this. Just so I don't waste too much time thinking about this. It's probably not that important anyway. I know what I'm gonna do. It's more efficient to do the colors first. Then I'll get the file names. I think after I do this one, then if I wanna analyze with less files, I can just filter there, and it's not a problem because it's just gonna fail the conditions that the nodes that don't didn't pass the filter. Let me actually pinkish. Hopefully I didn't make any mistake here. The colors. So visitor, optimizer, optimizer, compiler, compiler, Lexer, Lexer, parser, parser, ready tracking, ready track. And this is gonna save on the Jinja2 name. I think this is gonna work. But my concern now is that probably what's going on actually is that those interactions and physics models are part of the Vue.js stuff. So the only way to change them would be to, it might be impossible to change through the Pyvis because it's not, Pyvis is just replicating the stuff from Vue.js when it's passing those arguments, which I think is more likely to be the case now. And then the Jinja template is creating this stuff that Pyvis uses. And if I want to change the functionality, I would have to change through through Vue.js. But there should be a way anyway to make it different through Python, either by creating a different template or by changing something on Vue.js. Yeah, at least this is much better. Seems to be much better and easier to visualize. Let me see something. Let's see if I can copy the colors directly into here. So I can. If I copy it to open office, it doesn't work. It gets in a weird format. but in the notebook it's fine. So I'm gonna copy it here to put it to the side so I remember which color is each one. Oh no. Oh, thank God. I pressed Ctrl Z, erased everything. But now I did Ctrl Shift Z and then it came back. So optimizer. It's gonna be difficult to understand though. Maybe what I should do is create a template from scratch actually. Create a different project and then just create templates from Jinja and then see how it works. Because I think what I'm lacking is the understanding of how templates work. Both that and the Vue.js library as well. Because so far I just play around with the Pyvis, didn't study the Vue.js part. So this is the file now node. Yeah, the gray edges are kind of virtual. I think I'm gonna have to filter by file instead. Make it easier to understand. But this is a much better picture of what's going on. So all I need to do is figure out how to modify this interaction part here. That's the main goal. The issue is that what the hell? The color for one of the edges is kind of hard to see. The purple one. I think it's from the compiler. So here's the last node. I'm trying to find the first one. I guess it's here. Lexer. This is the first one. Yeah, so it starts here. What's your environment? So this part is just creating the tokens. And I think this acquire and release is for multi-threading Python from the little that I've searched there. That's what it seems to be the use of that. But here, oh, it's a loop. So it goes through here, creates these tokens. And this is apparently a loop, so probably creates multiple tokens. Oh, the nodes are not correct as well. Now I realize that because I'm not modifying the true colors. Yeah, that's the problem with doing this here. So maybe I should still do it in the bottom here for the color of the nodes. Because otherwise it's gonna override the color from the previous nodes, but the edges I should do it inside of here. I think that's what I'm gonna do next. But first I'm gonna keep going through this. Okay, so the environment stuff. Here's the first time that is parser dot py. Parser is purple. Just want to see the moment that it becomes the nodes there. Here. So this is the first nodes.py. So first it is the Lexer stuff, then the parsing, then compiling, parsing. Yeah, first is the environment, then the Lexer, then the parser file. That seems to be the flow. And then after that, it goes to the nodes. Hey Vivix, what's up, man? Refactoring. No idea what that is. I'm trying to understand how Jinja works so I can change the functionality of this stuff here. But it's really difficult to understand. I'm not sure if this approach is gonna be just a waste of time and I should maybe try to create different templates and do it like this instead. It feels like there's something that I'm missing, but I'm not really sure what it is or how to get it, how to find out. This is rewriting, changing code to make it better. Oh, okay. I think I'm gonna filter just for the nodes file, and so nodes is connected to visitor and compiler. I think this is compiler, not sure if it's parser. Yeah, compiler. The thing is that all of this stuff is before the Pyvis puts sends information of the network. Which to me logically makes more sense that the VJS stuff should come after Pyvis renders the template that is done. But it might not be the case. Let me go to the file of the notes to see. I think first I'm gonna put the oh oh maybe it's on the other graph here. I'm gonna copy this stuff again actually. I think I did it on the wrong file. Yeah. Here we go. Maybe before I even do this, I'm gonna take a look again at the less nodes. So here is still nodes.py, then environment, 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 runtime. Oh yeah, but I didn't put the Pyvis stuff, so I have to look at the other graph. So I think I'm gonna run like this. Need to understand when Vue.js comes into the picture there. Maybe I can Google or DuckDuckGo how Vue.js, how Jinja2 creates the source for scripts. So I'm just thinking about different ways that I can approach this. What I'm thinking about right now is creating a template from scratch that is not related to Pyvis at all. A simple template on Jinja, and then first trying to understand how the source is created for the JavaScript in the HTML file. After Jinja parses stuff, and understanding how uh, understanding what are exactly the nodes in Jinja2. Because I think I understand it now that it creates the token version of whatever you pass into the template, and then parses that into the HTML file, and that becomes the final thing. But I don't understand the connection still between Vue.js and Jinja. The thing is that's really hard to search for stuff like this because it's too specific, I think. I think the best way is actually, I'm probably not gonna find by searching, so there's probably no other way besides doing what I'm doing with the graph stuff. The biggest concern is that I'm just wasting my time doing something that is unnecessarily harder by doing the graph, because I think I already learned enough about this stuff now, so I'm not gaining much from playing around with the graph itself. I would gain a lot more if I could build stuff on top of this, of course. At least I believe that's the case. I might be wrong about that as well, because it might be different than what I'm thinking it will be in my mind. If I'm able to create the extra functionality that I want. Let's have to wait for a bit. Because the biggest issue here is that I don't really understand what is the file object in Python. And I can't really look at the source code because it's on C. Because it's a built-in function. So because I don't understand that, it's hard to understand what exactly the nodes are. I'm not sure if each line of the object, whatever that object is of the file function. The I actually I have to open this up to show you. So this when you call that this here, it goes here, and this activates this function here to write the HTML. Then inside of this function, it creates a template, which is from Jinja2. And then it passes as an argument this content, which is this HTML object here. And I can't really see what is the object because it's built in from Python, I think. And in PyCharm, it doesn't show because it's probably written in C. At least that's what I think I saw on Stack Overflow, that you can't really, it just shows up pass here, but it's not really pass. And it exists a function here, but PyCharm doesn't show you. And I suspect it's probably because it's written in C and it's stored somewhere else. So once it creates this template, it passes this as the argument for the template on Jinja, and this goes to the Jinja stuff on this environment here. And then pretty much from what I understand so far, after this, it creates a series of rules, which are these arguments here, and then it starts parsing the object from Python into the template for HTML and JavaScript. And the challenge is that nowhere in the graph, there is network X being mentioned there, or Vue.js. And at the end result, you have the Vue.js in the source script. So I'm not really sure how the connection is being made. What I assume is happening is that in Jinja2, there is something that is built in for Vue.js specifically, but that doesn't make a lot of sense because Vue.js should be a separate library. So I'm trying to make the connection between both of them. Because what I think is happening is Pyvis is creating a bunch of objects and passing to the Jinja template. And then Jinja is parsing that and creating the stuff. And then from that, it accesses the API for Vue.js network, which doesn't show on the graph because it's outside, it's being called outside of the script from Python through this link here. So this portion, I think, happens on Jinja2, but I still don't understand really well how. Because this template here doesn't have any information so far about the network. So only after it creates the nodes in Jinja2, it goes through the process where it goes through the lexer, which is a way to create tokens for words, to parse the information of this file object from Python into HTML and JavaScript. Then it creates nodes somehow out of that. I'm not sure what exactly those nodes are, but it creates a bunch of nodes, then compiles them and parses them through the files on Jinja2. And then after it's done with all of that, with creating this template, then this function calls the render for this environment here, which was created earlier. And only then it passes the information of the network to the environment. But it doesn't, after it does that, it also just shows the Jinja2 stuff. It never shows anything related to Network X or Vue.js. So where is the link between them? That's the question. Because if you change here in the source code, I think I tried to do this before. If you change the options and you try to add or remove stuff to pass here or in the either in the options or in this render method, it doesn't change anything in the page. So I suspect there's some link there between Vue.js and Jinja that I don't understand really well. And also because these options here, I think it's on a different file, but there are some options that exist on the page here in the interactions and don't exist on the script on the Pyvis library. So how is that possible? It has to be either from Jinja or from Vue.js, but it doesn't make sense for it to be from Jinja because Jinja is supposed to be a template for HTML from Python. So how is the connection between Vue.js and Jinja being made if it doesn't show here on the graph? That's why it's so confusing. I believe that there must be something in Jinja that creates these things here. Or maybe not, I don't know. Because I don't understand what the file object is from Python. So I don't understand the before and after. That makes sense. Like what is the initial step where it just has Python stuff, then the middle step where it finishes the template and it parses everything, and then the difference between that step, the middle step, and the final step. If I understood the first step, then I could deduce the middle step. what it has there and if it is connected to VJS or not. And then it would be a lot easier to understand the last step. But because I don't understand the first, then it becomes a lot harder. Not sure if that makes sense, but so I think I need to analyze this visitor and the nodes file first and try to understand the connection between them. It seems like the strongest connection is between nodes, compiler, and visitor, the files and the methods. And before that, the lexer and parser are kind of connected. And I think that's how it's separated, usually. First, you have lexer and parser that are activated, then that information gets sent into creating nodes. And the nodes communicate with this visitor and compile files. And the environment comes after. So I think the environment is the overall class that has all the functionality of the template. Because it's also activated after all of this. So here, where's the last files? Also, no, the beginning is here. The environment, and this stuff is the lexer and parser. Then it goes through this stuff, which is the nodes and nodes, visitor, and compile. Compiler. Then after this, it's still nodes here. So I think maybe the best way is gonna be to create a different template and just see. Because I need to understand how to make it. If I make a different template, then I can choose whatever I'm gonna input first, so I know what's the first step, and then I can analyze what are the nodes in the Jinja2. I think that might be the best approach. But I'm trying to think if there's any other way, because obviously that's gonna be more difficult. Not more difficult, but more time consuming if I have to do that. So after it does goes through all the nodes and stuff like that, Then it goes back to the environment stuff. And then this runtime. What I need to understand is the nodes, but I'm trying to think if there's a way to clean this up as well. Or if there isn't a way and I just have to get into this mess here. It doesn't make any sense for. I don't think this the file object from Python through the Jinja template should create this. It doesn't make any sense. So, but at the same time, how is it possible that? So this has to come after, in the second part, after it creates the template. So it has to be on the render stuff. Which means it should come after the all these nodes here. It should be either in this runtime or in the environment stuff. To me, that's the only way that makes more sense, because that's when you're passing something from Pyvis that can maybe have a connection with Vue.js that triggers something in Jinja somehow to activate this stuff on the template. Maybe I should look on the other graph that has all the information. Because I want to see the moment that Pyvis gets activated again. It should come after this stuff here. Yeah, so this is the last compiler, then environment. I think I'm gonna start from here. Line 495. The other thing that I could be doing as well is changing the code and just trying to see if I can generate other things through the Pyvis instead of this layout here. Internal hook can be overridden to hook a different compile method in. So just the compile stuff. Then 1033. So it is a class method. Creates a template object from compiled code and the globals. This is used by the loaders and environments to create a template object. Hmm. Then 1053. Assume is this function here. Yeah. Render function and module. Debug and loader helpers. Store the reference. Also from some of the videos that I see, apparently use this loader thing that I don't know what it is really well. Then 1053, no, that's the one that I was at. Then it goes to the Pyvis again. Yeah, so here is the last step from the node creation. Then it goes back to this file here. And now it's gonna render this stuff, probably. So 377. Yeah, it's the get network data, then 329 in options. So I guess it just calls this and goes here. To JSON. So it's calling this method even though I didn't explicitly call it. I guess it's just because of the part here. The assert thing. Yeah, because of this. And because of this is instance here is probably. Oh no, it's because of JSON.dumps here. So I guess it's hitting this statement instead. Which goes to the line 229. Yeah, it's one of the two. Yes, it's probably this one. So it's not an instance of self.options. Oh, so I guess when you specify directly, then it hits the other one. Then it just dumps the object. when you don't specify options, then it goes through this one, which transforms this into JSON format. The self.options into JSON. Then 231 in the options. Oh, it's this lambda here. And the lambda again. Probably just dumping the stuff into JSON. And now it goes back to the Jinja. Because it's probably activating after you read this line, which is here. It probably goes through this and now it goes into the render in Jinja. Let me see. It's a method of the template, which makes sense. This method accepts the same arguments as the dict constructor, a dict subclass, or some keyword arguments. No arguments are given, the context will be empty. These two calls do the same. Template.render. This will return the rendered template as Unicode string. So it tries to return the concat of self root render function, passing self.new context. With the also the options, so the stuff from the network goes here. So maybe by exploring this stuff, I'm gonna figure out. Guys, calling this new context. I'm passing the dictionary with all this stuff. Create a new class context for this template. The vars provided will be passed to this template. Per default, the globals are added to the context. If shared is set to true, it is passed as is to the context without adding the globals. Locals can be a dict of local variables for internal usage. So if I remember, it doesn't pass anything like that. It's just passing the arguments. And then it's going to return new context. It's probably the next line here. Yeah. No, I'm on this one actually. Self.environment, self.name, self.blocks. So is a recursive. No. Now I go shoot the other file. Runtime. So this is this one. 78. It's passing the environment, template name, blocks, vars, shared, globals, and locals. If vars is none, vars equals empty object. If shared, parent equals vars. Else parent equals dict, globals, or empty tuple vars. If the parent is shared, a copy should be created because we don't want to modify the dict pass. If for key value, you iterate items locals. If value is not missing, parent return environment dot context class environment parent template. Just probably the next line here. This thing. And so it's not. It should be on this file. In the init 183. So maybe finishes here and then goes back to the execution of the previous file that was creating the template. Yeah, here it passes all this stuff for the parsing thing. This is the stuff that creates before. Then they call this class method from code, which calls this name this from namespace. Then it calls the render. Yeah, so this is the part that I was on. So maybe now it's running this one. Let's see. We cannot find declaration. Should go. Interesting. So let me go manually there. See what's up. 183 context with meta class context meta. The template context holds the variables of a template. It stores the values passed to the template and also the names the template exports. Creating instances is neither supported nor useful as it's created automatically at various stages of the template evaluation and should not be created by hand. The context is immutable. Modifications and attribute parents must not happen. Modifications and attribute variants are allowed from generated template code only. Template filters on global functions marked as context functions get active context passes first argument. Supports read-only dictionary operations. Get key keys values. Additionally, there is a math resolve method that doesn't fail if a key error, but it returns as class undefined object for missing variables. We should eventually make this be a deprecation warning and remove it. So it's taking the stuff from before. And then from this, yeah, this is the 183 line. Then goes through the nodes again. With the initial mapping of blocks, whenever template inheritance takes place, the runtime will update this mapping with the new blocks from the template. In case we detect a fast resolve mode, we can set up an alias here that bypasses the legacy code logic. So I'm not sure if is there anything explicitly here that calls this node, the initialization of the nodes. There we go. So this eval context activates this file here. Which is, yeah, 66. Holds evaluation time information. custom attributes can be attached to it in extensions. So self environment template name. If so, self environment equals environment. If callable, escape. Yeah, so it doesn't do anything specific. Then it goes to this lambda compat file. Maybe it's because of this. I don't want to open the file, that's the problem. I think I might have to. Well, let me keep going and see. So 194 here. So now it runs through this function for the blocks. 234, resolve are missing. Also, it's calling this thing here. In case we detect the fast resolve mode, we can set up and analyze. So 234. It's not this. I'm gonna go there manually. This one. Resolves a variable like math, resolve, but returns a special missing value if it cannot be found. So now 150. Oh no, that's the one. So go show another resolve are missing. Oh, because it's called 0 probably. Yeah. That one calls this one and then to JSON. 120. Yeah, that's the problem. Because if I can't go through here, I'm gonna have to go through. I'll go like this. Probably easier. Uh, 1020, 1228. Dumps a structure to JSON so that it's safe to using script tags. So this is the one that creates the script tag maybe. It accepts the same arguments and returns a JSON string. Note that this is available in templates through the choose.json filter, which will also mark the result as safe. Due to how this function escapes certain characters, this is safe even if used outside of a script tags. Escape the strings. This makes it safe to embed such strings in any place in HTML with the notable exception of double quote attributes. In that case, single quote your attributes or HTML escape it in addition. The indent parameter can be used to enable pretty printing. Set it to the number of space that the structure should be indented with. Note that this filter is for use in HTML context only. Yeah, now I'm approaching the end. I still don't understand how this stuff works. Works exactly like func dumps, but safe for using script. Thanks. Isn't this the same function? Yeah, it's the same description, but it's a different function. So I think what I'm gonna do now is just I'm gonna change the source code of Pyvis, and I'm gonna see what happens when I create the thing, the graph. Because I still don't understand where's the connection here. Yeah, so from that one you called this one, which I saw after, and then, or maybe not, maybe it's on different. Oh no, it's on it is, so it is the function that I was seeing. Yeah, this one, and then from this one, 2019. Mark the value as safe, which means that in an environment with automatic escaping enabled, this variable will not be escaped. And this is the last one. Yeah, so what I have to do now is change the script there. I'm gonna change the source code of the Pyvis and see what happens. Maybe it's something that I'm missing because I'm filtering the thing, but the only way that can be the case is through the JSON module, because the JSON stuff's not showing up there. But I don't feel like that's what's going on here. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do now. I think I'm gonna take a picture of this interaction here, and I'm gonna change the source code, and then I'm gonna run the thing again and see if anything happens. So I have a couple of options as well. After I change that, then I can either try to do a new template from scratch about something else. Some easy template that I can do, and then run that template through the visualization stuff. That's one option, but that's more time consuming. The other option is to, I think, yes, to investigate the nodes file of the Jinja, because it must be that file. The nodes and the Lexer files seem to be the most important one in the environment files. To investigate all those files until I get a really good grasp of what's going on. I think I'm gonna try to do this first. So the thing is here, self. That's what I don't understand, is that it doesn't have anything explicit here. It doesn't make sense to me. Because in nowhere along all this stuff, like I see this being called anywhere. So there's definitely something that I'm missing here. Can't be. There must be something that I'm missing in the visualization stuff. That is not showing up in the graph, but it should be. Maybe I have to study the Viz.js library to understand if these are parts of arguments from it. And if I can only put a boolean value here, then it's pretty useless, even if it works. Because it's not gonna give me access to the nodes. Maybe I can also inspect the thing. That's another thing that I can do. The problem with that approach is that if I inspect this and see the functionality here, then even if I succeed in figuring out, then it's still not gonna allow me to know how to create this with the Python functions. That's the problem. Yeah, all this stuff is coming from the Viz.js API. So I have to find the connection between the Viz.js and the Jinja2. Oh, I closed the script here as well. It's only passing options, width, height, heading, edges, and nodes. I think the other thing that I'm gonna do is print this stuff in the end here, so I can see what is actually. Yeah, I'm gonna copy this stuff. So this is the stuff that is being. Oh no, I modified the thing here. Let's see if it's gonna run as well. The default is supposed to be on. So let's see if it's off when it loads the page. So I'm gonna print them one by one, also to see what's the final format of these things here that are being passed to the template, to the Jinja2 template. I should print the setting as well. Yeah, so nodes is gonna be the list with all the dictionaries containing the node properties. Edges are gonna be really similar. Self.options physics enabled. Maybe we can print net.options as well. Here. And apparently it didn't break the thing at least by putting this extra stuff here. I think I'm gonna grab some water right back. It's gonna be so satisfying when I get it done though. I can't wait. So the options is a dictionary containing this stuff that is passed there through each one of the things. So the drag view is still on, even though I set it to off there, which is interesting. The other stuff has to be coming from Vue.js. So now what I'm gonna do is modify this here to false. The other one's to true. And I wanna see if there's any difference there. And I'm also gonna print something else there. Just see what it is. Maybe heading and config. It's conf here. It's just false. Ah, now it changes. And stuff is different than before. Interesting. Hmm. But what is going on here? I think I have to read the VGS documentation. Presents the global options of the network. This object consists of individual sub-objects and attributes JS modules. Configure layout, interaction, physics, engines. Maybe there is a step I'm missing here. Doesn't make sense. I think I'm gonna read the VGS documentation. Maybe it's this use dot here that I haven't investigated as well. I think before I do that, I'm gonna open the nodes file of the Jinja stuff. I'm gonna go through that file and then I'm probably gonna close this stream and read the documentation on this.js off stream to try to understand what's going on. I need to understand the link between Vue.js and Jinja, if there is any. And if there isn't, what are the Vue.js methods? It should be possible for me to change stuff here in the initialization of this object and change the things on the interaction there. But maybe it's just the names that I'm getting wrong, but here it seems that the names are exactly the same way that they are on the thing. So what if I try all of them and see if any of them there is a difference? And the thing is, even if I can change here, I still have to understand how. Yeah, because the thing is, I have to understand how Vue.js is getting the nodes, activating, doing stuff with the nodes through these methods here. And I know it's using get element by ID and event listeners to do that. But I don't understand how it is creating that. And I think it must have the connection with the Jinja2 template, otherwise it wouldn't make sense. So it's probably being activated somewhere in the Jinja2, the functionality to move the nodes around. Or maybe I'm just confusing the things and what is actually going on is that, yeah, but that wouldn't make sense. I was gonna say that maybe the nodes in Jinja2 are being activated after the render method, but that's not what the graph shows. So that's why this is really weird. I'm gonna try this anyway just to see if at least one of them turns on by doing this thing. I was gonna do something else as well. I think I'm gonna read this file here from beginning to the end. It's not that many lines. Ah, interesting. Ah, so it does work. Maybe I was misspelling the name there. Hmm. Yeah, that gives me a lot of hope actually. Because if it does work, yeah, maybe I was just making a mistake by when I was naming things. Because if it does work, then all I have to do is figure out how this method is being activated by VJS. So what is going on in my mind right now is that I think what's happening is that Pyvis is passing this as an object to Jinja, then Jinja is parsing everything, and then yeah, the only question is how the source thing for VJS gets into place. I think probably what's happening is that all the function and the nodes part of the script is the Python portion that sends the nodes and all the information, the options and stuff, is the JavaScript portion of the HTML page. The template is the HTML and CSS part that comes before. And then, so probably the VJS source attribute has to come after the template, in the render method of the template. I think that's what makes the most sense. So now what I have to do, I think I have to read the documentation on Vue.js so I know what is expecting to. Let me think. Maybe I can write a function here in the options itself. I can make this self.drag nodes. Yeah, I have to make the connection between these attributes and how the event listeners are being created through Vue.js. That's what I need to do. Once I understand that, then I can create a function here, or yeah, even in this class, in the interaction class. And then I can set this attribute based on that function. So it modifies the functionality of the drag nodes and the keyboard events to do what I want to do instead. But I have to see if that's gonna be possible, because then the objective would be to change the functionality of this so that every time I press something, a node, it runs a script in Python instead. Or if by pressing things on the keyboard, I can either open a file or do different things. But I think at least I'm making progress. So I'm probably on the right direction. So those options become objects in the script portion of the HTML thing, the JavaScript portion. And then those scripts are gonna be activated through the Vue.js API. So I need to understand how Jinja is doing the event listeners. Yeah, that and the connection between what portions of this, how can these arguments here activate in Jinja the Vue.js stuff. That's what I need to understand. Let me print the options here again. Let me see. I'm printing interaction. Because it's passing this as, oh, actually, let me stop this. I'm gonna print the options here and then directions below. It's passing this stuff as an object through the Jinja template. And this is becoming the stuff on the JavaScript side. Oh, I can also search all source tags. Created. Right. And the thing is that this stuff doesn't usually talk about things like this. Maybe I can search in a different way. Watch included JavaScript. File change. There must be something that I'm passing in the Pyvis stuff that creates the source tag for network vis. It just doesn't make a lot of sense because there's nothing there that in the render method that seems to be related to Vue.js, except the methods that have the comments that, but uh, the comments that don't mean anything if the code that doesn't have information. So options is this thing here, which is nested object. And then interactions is this object here. Is the first one. Now let me open up the HTML file. Maybe I should write it down, the stuff that I'm trying to understand. I'm also at this handles the HTML part of the canvas and generates interactive option editor with filtering. So I guess that, but the only option is that Jinja knows this stuff. It's the only way. There's something in Jinja that when you pass these things here, it activates something that puts the VJS on the HTML part. So this is the CSS stuff. Or is it has to be this template that I'm not understanding. This thing here. That's probably the issue. I'm probably missing something here before. Because otherwise it wouldn't be possible to have this name here. Yeah, that's the only thing, the only way that it would make sense as well. Because then it would make a lot more sense for the Jinja2 to create a bunch of nodes. But the thing is, this path is just the directory of the file. Well, let me print this. Maybe that's the stuff that I'm missing, that I'm not understanding. Because I'm confusing what path is. Ah, yeah, that's probably the thing that I'm missing actually. This is probably a file somewhere, and this file has the initial part for the VJS stuff. That's what I'm missing. Yeah. Let me see. Templates. Template. Yeah, now it makes a lot more sense now. Hmm. So this doesn't come from Jinja. Just the template that is here already. Ah. That was the problem. Because I was confusing this the whole time with the name that I'm using here to save the file. Damn. I'm so dumb. Oh, no, I get it. I think. So what's happening is Pyvis is using this file here, which already has the things in the format that Jinja understands to parse, and then it parses this file uh, with the objects. It parses the file. Yeah, it creates the nodes out of this thing and the Lexer stuff. Hmm. Now it makes a lot more sense. So what I can probably do is change this file to change the functionality that I want. To get the functionality that I want. I think I did it actually. No. I think it's gonna be easy actually. All I have to do is change this file. First understand how the Jinja2 works. Then I change this file and then I change the options. the options file. And then probably I won't have to study the VJS network, the VJS documentation. So now I'm just thinking, what's the difference? What happens after it does the initial template stuff with this when you pass in the render method? I guess the render method is just gonna change the things that go into these placeholders here. That's probably what's going on. Yeah, so that's the that was the missing piece that I wasn't. I knew there was something weird that I was probably missing because it didn't make any sense. And it was right in front of my face as well. I just overlooked this stuff. So I just have to understand which part of this. Yeah, I just have to watch these event listeners here. They are probably the ones that are changing the nodes. One of them. Get the position of nodes. Get positions. Yeah, but it's still here. There's nothing. At least that I looked right away that I can think that if I modify, I'm gonna be able to do different stuff with the nodes. Besides the nodes, these variables here. Yeah, I'm not very good at JavaScript as well. So this is gonna be a good exercise. So I guess this variable gets the position of the nodes, the bounding box of the node. But I don't understand. Yeah, there's nothing here that I can see that strikes me as something that is making the functionality of the interaction with the nodes. Hiding the pop-up through CSS. The only event listeners is that can have something to do with probably these ones. Mouse over and mouse out, but it doesn't seem like they have anything to do with the nodes. No document dot create element div. Yeah, so it is not the node. The node portion is here. Options.configure container equals element by id config. Hmm. If this network requires displaying the configure window, put it in its div. So I guess this is the window that shows the options for physics and stuff like that. And this is an if statement in the Jinja2 language. I think I'm starting to understand how it works. And this is the config div of the HTML. This is the object for the network through the Viz.js stuff. This creates the options here. This is probably the way that you say in Jinja to an object or something like that. Parsing and collecting nodes and edges from the Python. So I guess the second part where it renders is changing these variables here. That's what's happening. Probably. And then it becomes this. They go into this place here. Oh, so this is just if you're using the dot. And then if you're not, it goes through this process here. And then it ends the if statement. So now I'm thinking there's two possible ways that I can modify the functionality. One is by writing stuff here, understanding Jinja and writing this stuff here. So after it parses, I can do whatever I want. The other way is to try to figure out a way to pass through the Pyvis stuff to modify the Pyvis uh, source code. Or maybe I have to do both actually. I just should raise. Just trying to understand. Maybe if I inspect the file is better. Inspect the page. Yeah, I need to understand these things better as well. This WebKit stuff, the MOS transition. It's not that hard, but I don't understand very well. But I guess this is just the stuff for that is not directly with the node, just the CSS part. So I'm gonna see what's the div here, the name of the div for this canvas. Class Viz network. So it's inside of the my network, and this comes after. So this probably comes on the render method. And let me see what happens. Yes, I can't uh, touch node by node. Hmm. Yeah, so the config is this portion here, as I imagined, which comes before on the template there. The canvas probably comes after the render stuff. Because I don't see, yeah, there's no navigation here. It probably comes on this part here, where this is written. The config is only if you set the show buttons option to either one of the options. Border bar. So it's here in the bottom. Apparently it doesn't have anything. I guess it's just the layout of the. It's just to structure the layout of the HTML. So now I think I get it. So it starts off with this stuff, then it goes to the Jinja2, and then after it has converted these statements that are in this language here, then when you activate the render method, it probably adds the functionality. It's just a matter of understanding if the functionality comes before or after the template. No. Before or after the render method. I think from just reading this it comes after, because I don't see anything here specific to the nodes, and it's what makes more sense because the canvas is done probably in the render in this place here. But then I'm thinking of how this relates to the options. Oh, let me see here. Yeah, on this HTML it doesn't have anything here. So this is the after effect. After it renders. And now it has the config. And this is the same as before, but the only difference is now it's probably passing the nodes in that in the render method, and then the get through here, the nodes and the edges. And I imagine the options is gonna be the same thing. Yeah, before is two curly braces, now just one. Oh no, it's the same. Yeah, the only thing that changed was these ones. And now options was this, and now is this. but I need to understand how this functions. How is the connection made between this object here and the canvas? It's probably through this object which goes through the Viz.js library. Ah, yeah. So I have to study the Viz.js library because it creates this instance, then passes the options, the containers, and then probably uh, definitely these are methods for Viz.js that allow you to do stuff with the event listeners. Gets the element, removes attribute style. Network at once. Serialization, iterations, done. And returns this network. Yeah, so I have to study the Vue.js thing. And where is this coming from? It's probably the first thing there. I feel like this was really good to do. I, there's still a lot of stuff that I don't understand, obviously, but I think now I have a much better vision and much better understanding of what's actually happening. And the problem is that I don't understand JavaScript really well, so I don't know how classes work on JavaScript. But I think the only thing that makes sense to me now is that that object of the network on Vue.js has attributes inside of it that determine the functionality of the nodes. So I will have to explore a way to change the source code of that library instead. And I'm not even sure if that's possible, but probably it is. And then, because ultimately I want uh, to be able to change that functionality through the Pyvis library, through changing the source code of Pyvis. Because then, obviously, I'm gonna be able to do a lot of uh, everything that I want basically with the nodes. And if I change through the Vue.js library, then I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be able to, or I'm probably gonna be able to, but it's gonna be a lot harder to create functions in Python because then I'm gonna have to understand the Jinja stuff to modify the functionality of the nodes. So the best case scenario, I may able to figure out the connection between the PyVis in Python directly through the Viz.js, and then I can write scripts in Python depending on what I'm doing on the application that change the functionality of the nodes and the interaction of the nodes on the canvas. Because then I can create stuff where clicking in each node is gonna open up a file in the computer, or that I can navigate through through things. And if I'm able to do that, then I can use this to do a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so it's this one that is being called at the end there, which is just the function, the container, and just drawn network. So it has to be through the VGS library that the functionality of the canvas is being applied. Just double checking to see if I didn't miss anything. Yeah, this is interesting because I don't remember seeing this on the Pyvis stuff. So it uses the container, which is the main div, the data, which is the nodes and the options, to create this instance, and then this is the instance that has access to the portions of the HTML thing. And it has two modes. Once it's stabilizing, and the other when it's done stabilizing. Which is the loading bar stuff, the blue stuff that comes before it loads the canvas. Hmm. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna do this off stream. I'm gonna study the VJS library, and I'm gonna see how this object works and how is it manipulating the canvas. And I'll probably continue this another time to figure out. But I think I'm hopeful now because I think there is a clear path, and it's not gonna be. Hopefully, it's not gonna be as hard as I thought it would be. In case I didn't realize this stuff of the template. So yeah, pretty hopeful about that. So see ya.